Please be advised the following material is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This report contains the exact federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as documented by Inner City Press. The prison block was unusually quiet that night. It wasn't the kind of quiet that meant peace. It was the kind that crawled under your skin, pressing down on your chest like something was about to go wrong. Deep in cell 209, Diddy sat on the edge of his bunk, hands folded, eyes wide open. He hadn't blinked in minutes. Across from him, Rico Blades Moreno lay motionless on the lower bunk, the shadows wrapping around him like a shroud. Earlier that day, there had been tension. Not the kind anyone could explain outright, but the kind everyone felt. Something in the air. In the yard, Rico had bumped into Diddy near the weight bench. It looked like nothing, just a shoulder tap. But the way Diddy froze, the way his eyes locked onto Rico's retreating back, it said everything. He didn't react right away. Not then. But witnesses later said his stare followed Rico the rest of the day. And when dinner rolled around, he didn't eat. He just sat at his usual spot, eyes fixed on Rico, who laughed loudly, cracked jokes, and pointed at him while talking to someone else. No one could hear what was said. But whatever it was, Diddy never broke eye contact. Not once. Lockdown came like clockwork. Every cell sealed. Inmates shuffled back to their bunks. Except this time, something changed. A reshuffle. One of those random bed swaps the guards sometimes pull without explanation. Rico was reassigned to Diddy's cell. No paperwork. No warning. It just happened, and no one knew who approved it. Just like that, two men with rising tension were placed in the same confined space. The inmates knew something was off. They whispered through the vents. They heard the murmurs, the shifting tensions, the subtle clicks of paranoia setting in. They said someone was going to snap. They just didn't know who, or when. At around 11:47 p.m., the lights dimmed for final lockdown. But this time, the tier was darker than usual. The backup lights weren't working right. It wasn't total blackness, but just enough to cast long shadows and hide movements. It was like someone had designed it that way. Across the hall, inmates reported seeing Diddy pacing in his cell for more than an hour. Back and forth. No words. No music. No interaction. Just pacing. One inmate swore he heard him muttering something repeatedly under his breath. "It's him or me. It's him or me," over and over. Then at exactly 2:14 a.m., a soft metallic clang echoed through the block. Not loud, but enough to alert the light sleepers. Then, silence again. No guards responded. The cameras didn't flicker. No alarms went off. The footage, it would later be revealed, captured only part of the hallway, then went static. Inside cell 209, Diddy was seen standing near Rico's bunk. Still, silent. The way he stood, it was like he was waiting for a cue, or maybe fulfilling one. Slowly, he stepped closer. One foot, then another. Rico didn't move. No resistance. No sound. Some say he was asleep. Others believe he might have already been unconscious. What happened next? No one knows. There's no footage from inside the cell, only hallway video, and that too glitched during the critical window. All that's known is what came after. At 3:27 a.m., a guard doing his standard sweep paused outside the cell. He later testified that something didn't feel right. He couldn't hear breathing, couldn't hear movement. Just stillness. When he peeked through the viewing slot, he saw Diddy, sitting upright on his bunk. Hands on knees. Eyes wide open. Not blinking, not moving. He called out. No response. Again, louder this time. Silence. Then, the keys jingled, the door unlocked, and it creaked open. What the guard saw was described later as the most unsettling thing in his career. Rico lay in his bunk, face up, hands folded over his chest. Like he'd gone to sleep and never woke up. But there was something else. A faint line across his neck. No blood. No wound. Just pressure. Something had taken the breath from him without making a sound. Medical teams rushed in. Checked for pulse. Nothing. Rigor had already begun. He'd been gone for hours. They pulled Diddy to the back wall. He didn't resist. He didn't shout. He didn't deny. He simply said, "He came for me. I didn't want to, but I had to." That's all he said. And then silence again. As news of the incident spread across the cell block, the reactions were mixed. Some inmates nodded like they'd expected this. Others whispered theories, but none of them were ready for what came next. In the interrogation room, Diddy sat for 20 minutes without saying a word. His wrists were cuffed to the table, his jumpsuit wrinkled, his eyes red. Not from crying, but from exhaustion. When a detective finally spoke, Diddy raised his head. "He was going to kill me. He said he would. He told me, ask anyone. He wasn't lying. He said when the lights go out, he's coming for me. So when he got up, I didn't wait. I just reacted." He paused, stared at the wall, then added, "Someone wanted him in my cell. He was placed there. This wasn't random." Investigators started digging. And that's when things took a darker turn. The camera facing cell 209 had gone dark for exactly 4 hours. From 11:58 p.m. to 3:58 a.m. no visuals, no sound, just static. Tech team called it a rare malfunction, but there was no backup, no archive. The system had failed. And then came the revelation that there had been a bed reassignment slip approved that same day, moving Rico into Diddy's cell due to a supposed plumbing issue. But maintenance confirmed, there was no issue. No broken pipe. No blockage. No work order. And the admin login used to approve the move. It belonged to someone who hadn't worked at the prison in over 6 months. The pieces weren't fitting, and they weren't supposed to. The following day, a sweep of the cell revealed something else. Stitched into Rico's mattress was a small piece of paper. Handwritten. Messy. Smudged. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't a suicide note. It was a warning. It read, "If I go down, I'm not going alone." And it was addressed to Diddy. The discovery of the note changed everything. What was once assumed to be a spontaneous act of violence quickly morphed into something much deeper, something orchestrated. The note, stitched into the seams of Rico's mattress, had one haunting line written in his jagged handwriting. "If I go down, I'm not going alone." Investigators immediately isolated the note and sent it for handwriting verification. The results came back conclusive. It was Rico's. Prison mail staff confirmed the unique pressure points, the angle of his T's, the slant in his S's. But it wasn't just the confirmation of authorship that rocked the investigation, it was the contents of the note itself. Rico claimed he had been approached. Someone on the inside, he wrote, had asked him to provoke Diddy. Not just start a fight, but corner him, push him emotionally and mentally. In return, the note suggested, Rico was promised protection, leverage, even immunity. The letter was dated 2 nights before his death. He knew. Somehow, Rico knew he might not survive, and yet he took the deal. Maybe he thought he'd outsmart them. Maybe he planned to expose it later. But what he didn't count on was how far it would go. And the most chilling part. Rico claimed to have proof. He hinted at something big. Not weapons. Not drugs. Something bigger. Something tied to Diddy's past life outside the prison walls. And in his own words, he wrote, "He knows I know. If I don't make it out, check the cameras, but they won't be there." Those final lines hit investigators hard. Especially since, as already confirmed, the camera footage from the hallway outside cell 209 had mysteriously gone dark during the hours of Rico's death. A perfect blackout. 1 in a million glitch. Or maybe not a glitch at all. Now, the scope of the investigation had widened. Internal Affairs was brought in. Staff login credentials were audited. And that's when things got even darker. The admin ID used to approve Rico's cell reassignment didn't belong to any current employee. In fact, the login had been deactivated 6 months earlier after a mid-level administrator left the facility. So how was it reactivated? Who had access? And more importantly, why that night? Guards grew quiet. No one wanted to talk. Some avoided eye contact. Others called in sick. The prison had shifted. The silence in its halls now spoke louder than any voice. Meanwhile, Diddy remained in solitary confinement, moved to a high-security isolation unit the morning after the incident. Officially, it was for his protection. And officially, it looked a lot like damage control. In a brief statement to his lawyers, Diddy didn't deny what happened. He doubled down. He said Rico was placed in his cell for a reason. That someone wanted to finish a job others had started long before. He claimed Rico was just the trigger, not the enemy. They put him in my cell to finish a job someone outside couldn't. Those words sent shivers through the legal team. Someone outside. Was this about a past grudge? A business deal gone wrong? Or something even deeper, buried under years of secrets? Rumors exploded online. Some claimed Rico had been involved in blackmail. Others suggested he had ties to people who wanted Diddy silenced. Fans dissected every detail, every moment of footage, every word Diddy had spoken, every known connection between the two men. But the story wasn't done unraveling. 3 days after the note's discovery, a forensic tech found a secondary data stream embedded in the prison's internal surveillance logs. Buried deep, almost erased, was a 2-second glitch that didn't belong to any camera. When enhanced, it showed a blurry silhouette entering the hallway near cell 209 at exactly 1:32 a.m. No uniform. No flashlight. Just a moving shadow. Swipe logs said no one entered. The door sensors registered nothing. Yet there it was. An unidentified figure, inches from the cell that would become a crime scene less than an hour later. The prison administration tried to downplay it. Claimed it was an overlay error. A software misfire. But no one bought it. Not after everything else. And then, the letter went missing again. Not physically, but digitally. After being uploaded into the official prison archive, the file was flagged for security review. 24 hours later, it was gone. Not hidden. Erased. No backups. No scan. No trace. When questioned, the warden's office said it was standard procedure. But no one could say who ordered the removal. No one signed the directive. It simply vanished. And with it, any official proof of Rico's final words. For Diddy's defense team, this was more than a setback. It was sabotage. They had seen the note. Had read it. But now, in the eyes of the system, it didn't exist. Still, they pressed forward. Public pressure was mounting. Journalists camped outside the prison gates. Advocacy groups demanded a full investigation. And inside, inmates began talking more openly. One inmate, known only as Trig, came forward with a claim. He said he'd overheard a conversation between Rico and an unknown guard 2 nights before the killing. Said Rico was bragging about getting something big in exchange for rattling Diddy. When Trig asked what kind of deal, Rico just laughed. Said, big enough to walk out of here untouched. Another inmate claimed he saw Rico with a burner phone weeks earlier. Said he was sending messages late at night, talking into his pillow like someone was listening. When questioned, the prison denied any record of contraband devices. But no cell searches had been performed in that block for over 30 days, conveniently. The puzzle pieces were stacking, and they were forming a picture no one wanted to see. This wasn't just a prison altercation, this was a coordinated setup. And Diddy? He was the centerpiece. Meanwhile, in solitary, Diddy's condition was changing. Medical records revealed he hadn't slept in over 3 days prior to the incident. Cortisol levels through the roof. Signs of extreme anxiety. Classic indicators of a body in constant survival mode. A mental health evaluation concluded that while Diddy was aware of his actions, his perception of threat was heightened, paranoia triggered by prolonged stress and trauma. Was it real? Or was it induced? If Rico was sent to provoke him, and his psychological state was already crumbling, then whoever orchestrated this had built the perfect trap. Now, legal experts are split. Some say it's an open and shut case of self-defense pushed to the brink. Others argue it's premeditated. But neither side can ignore the missing footage, the digital erasures, the shadowy figure, and the vanishing letter. Someone's cleaning house, and they're doing it well. As part 2 of the investigation unfolds, subpoenas are being issued. Security staff are under review. Digital logs are being pulled for manual audit. And the court is preparing for a pre-trial unlike any in recent history. Outside the prison, speculation is at an all-time high. Fans post theories hourly. Blogs analyze every frame of footage. Celebrities close to Diddy have gone silent. No statements. No support. It's like the entire industry is holding its breath, waiting. Because if this goes to trial, if the full story comes out, it won't just be about Diddy. It'll be about the system that allowed it to happen. And that's a truth many aren't ready to face. The days following the disappearance of Rico's letter were the most chaotic the prison had seen in years. Staff moved with urgency, but said little. Guards exchanged quiet glances. Inmates, usually loud and restless, spoke in hushed tones. Rumors had become reality, and reality was unraveling. Diddy's legal team had filed motions demanding the restoration of the lost evidence. They claimed the digital deletion of Rico's note was a deliberate act, not a clerical error. Their demands were met with silence. No one admitted fault. No one acknowledged the letter had ever existed, even as multiple officials had read it with their own eyes. Meanwhile, the public pressure intensified. News outlets aired nightly updates. National figures weighed in. Protests formed outside the facility, calling for transparency, accountability, and justice, not just for Rico, but for whatever was happening behind the locked gates of the prison. Inside, Diddy sat alone in his new isolation unit, stripped of distractions, denied communication. The walls felt tighter than ever. Even time seemed to shift. Minutes stretched endlessly. But he wasn't broken. If anything, he was sharpening. Waiting. Then, without warning, came the most shocking development yet. A former prison nurse, recently let go due to budget cuts, came forward with a statement, anonymously, through an attorney. She claimed she had overheard a conversation between two senior guards the morning after Rico's death. The guards allegedly discussed the letter, how it needed to disappear, before outside investigators arrived. They also mentioned, someone up top had made the call. This nurse's claim, though unconfirmed, reignited everything. The case was no longer just about a prisoner killing another inmate. It had grown into something far more dangerous, a potential institutional cover-up, one involving multiple layers of the prison administration. In response, federal investigators were brought in. Internal audits turned external. The warden was placed on administrative leave. And then, just days later, a bombshell dropped. A second copy of Rico's note was found. Not the original, not a scan, but a handwritten copy. One of the guards, fearful of what might come, had made a personal transcription before handing it in. Scared for his job, he had stored it in his home safe, not knowing if he'd ever need it. But the pressure, the scrutiny, it became too much. He turned it over. And it matched, word for word. Rico had warned Diddy. He had warned everyone, and now, no one could deny it. With that, Diddy's defense team rebuilt their case. But they didn't stop there. They demanded access to the prison's internal communications, emails, security reports, personnel logs. Most of it was denied. But then something unexpected arrived, a flash drive, delivered anonymously, postmarked from a nearby town. On it were fragments of internal emails, redacted reports, even time-stamped logs from the night of the murder. Among them was one explosive message. A brief, 3-sentence email from an administrative assistant to an unknown recipient, time-stamped the morning before Rico's cell transfer. It read, "The subject is in place. 209 confirmed. Movement initiated as requested." No names. No titles. Just coordinates, action, and confirmation. This wasn't random. Someone had made the decision to place Rico in Diddy's cell. Someone with access. Someone with power. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. Maybe Diddy hadn't snapped. Maybe he'd been pushed. As legal teams clashed behind closed doors, the court of public opinion surged. Social media erupted in debates. Was Diddy a victim of a complex setup? Or was he spiraling, clinging to excuses for a calculated act? Then came the psychological report, a full evaluation from a court-appointed psychiatrist. The findings were sobering. It revealed that Diddy had been in a prolonged state of psychological distress. Severe insomnia. Hypervigilance. Panic episodes. Evidence showed he had made multiple written requests to be moved from his cell due to threatening behavior from nearby inmates. Those requests were never processed. In fact, according to system records, they were marked, received, but never addressed. Once again, the system had failed him. The psychiatrist concluded that while Diddy understood his actions, he had been operating under what is known as perceived lethal threat, a state where an individual, believing their life is in immediate danger, responds with force even if evidence of that danger is subtle or delayed. This diagnosis didn't absolve him, but it changed the stakes. He wasn't a murderer. He was a man who believed he'd been cornered, hunted, and who acted to survive. The trial date approached fast. Media outlets circled like vultures. Prison officials scrambled to clean their image, and inside those gray concrete walls, the atmosphere thickened. But one final twist remained. An anonymous source sent a package to Diddy's attorneys, containing a mini cassette tape. No return address. No identifying marks. Inside the padded envelope was a note with only 2 words. Play me. When the team inserted the tape into a recorder, the sound was faint but clear. A conversation. Muffled voices. One of them, Rico. The recording was short, less than 90 seconds, but it was damning. Rico was speaking to someone who promised him that if he did his part, provoking Diddy, he'd be rewarded. When Rico asked what the reward was, the answer was spine-chilling. You'll never have to worry about staying inside again. That phrase, never have to worry about staying inside again, was interpreted in 2 ways. Either Rico was promised freedom, or he was promised death. The prosecution immediately challenged the tape's authenticity, but forensic audio experts authenticated the voice as Rico's. The background noise, matched with ambient prison sounds, confirmed it was recorded within the facility. This was no hoax. This was evidence. At trial, the courtroom was packed. Spectators held their breath. The media reported every word. And when Diddy took the stand, he didn't plead for sympathy, he didn't cry, he didn't even flinch. He simply said, "I didn't want to be in that cell. I asked not to be. They put him there anyway. I didn't kill him because I hate him. I killed him because I believed he was going to kill me first." His voice never cracked. Not once. In the end, the jury deliberated for days.